What's up guys, so recently I just got back from the Galaxycon Columbus convention in, you guessed it, Columbus, Ohio. And so I thought it would be fun to recap my experience at Galaxycon, including when I got to meet one of my all-time favorite musicians. And as I'm sure you probably guessed from the title of this video, it was none other than Diddy! Nah, I'm just kidding, f that guy. Instead, the guy I met was someone who, ironically, did a parody of a Diddy song. But he also did parodies of other artists including Madonna, The Knack, Don McLean, and Coolio. If you somehow couldn't tell who I'm talking about, it's Weird Al Yankovic, guys. I got to meet Weird Al Yankovic, and spoiler alert, it was fucking awesome. So I'll be telling you all about the convention and what it was like to meet a musical legend. But first, I figured I might as well tell you how I discovered Weird Al Yankovic. So back in summer of 2013, when I was just a young lad, I was attending a summer camp and they were hosting a talent show. This summer camp had different groups, each with 1 to 2 counselors, and I was in the swim group. And for our act, we did the dance from Michael Jackson's Thriller. It was actually a lot of fun. We even won the whole talent show. Soon after that, I became obsessed with Michael Jackson, and if he was still alive at the time, he probably would have been obsessed with me. Shortly after I became a big fan of MJ, my mom introduced me to the music video for a song called Eat It, which is a parody of the song Beat It. And being a young child, I thought it was pretty funny. Soon after that, I started discovering more of his songs such as Like a Surgeon and Fat. And as time went on, I slowly became a big Weird Al fan, and the rest is history. So if you had told me that one day I would get the chance to meet Weird Al Yankovic in person, I wouldn't have believed you. But that's exactly what happened on Saturday, December 7th, 2024. And let me tell you, it was something special. Now, some of you guys are probably thinking, why are you making this video in the first place? Weird Al isn't horror. In fact, he's quite the opposite. And while you're definitely right about that, whatever man, I just enjoy making these convention videos. Also, guess what? Weird Al actually was in a horror movie. He was in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So yeah, joke's on you, I guess.
Are we talking about the Austin Powers Mike Myers, or is this...
Alright, no more time to waste. Let's get on with this convention. So I went to this con for one day only, and as per usual with these conventions, Saturday is usually the busiest day of the weekend. But oh my god, busy is definitely an understatement for how crowded it was at this con. And believe me, I planned ahead of time, because I got to this event at like 8 in the morning, which is about 2 hours before the doors opened. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous arriving at that time because I was expecting the lines to be awful, but surprisingly, it wasn't that bad. I was probably one of the first 200 people in line. Before that though, I had to pick up my badge at the registration line, and it turns out I was actually pretty early since they didn't open the registration line until 8:30, but thankfully that actually went pretty smoothly because it only took like a few minutes. So I was definitely surprised to see a bunch of people online complaining how terrible the registration line was handled. So yeah, a little bit of advice for my future con goers: get there as early as you can so you don't have to deal with cluster lines like this. Anyways, after I pick up my registration badge, I hop in line and wait for it to hit 10 o'clock. So I sit there and wait, and wait, and wait, and then eventually it hits 10 o'clock, and the crowds are sprinting through the door like a herd of wildebeest, myself included. So I sprint to Weird Al's autograph line, and once I get there, I'm probably like 15th person in line. So far, this was already going way better than what happened with Bruce Campbell. And after about 45 minutes I hop in line, coming out from behind the curtains, I see a man with long brown curly hair and a black and gold Hawaiian t-shirt with musical instruments on it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Weird Al Yankovic was standing just a few feet away from me. And I'm gonna be honest, it took me a while for my mind to process that. I mean, hell, I can't even believe it happened even right now as I'm speaking. So I brought an 8x10 photo of Weird Al Yankovic posing with a kangaroo to get signed. Now, normally I wouldn't bring my own 8x10 photo because celebrities tend to have their own photos at their table you can get signed. That being said, Weird Al had a very limited option of 8x10 photos at his table. There were only like 5 different options he had, and all of them were like headshots. No UHF photos, no Milo Murphy's Law photos, no Gravity Falls photos, nothing. So yeah, another tip for my convention convention virgins, if you're planning to get anything signed by a celebrity, I would suggest bringing your own items just in case. Anyways, at long last, it was finally time. I walked up to Weird Al, I introduced myself, and I handed him the photo of the kangaroo. And he asked me if I've ever been to Australia. Believe it or not, I actually haven't been to Australia, which I know is pretty ironic. You think someone named the Horror Wombat would have at least been to Australia by now, but nope, I haven't yet, surprisingly. Maybe one day I'll get to visit Australia and perhaps meet my long-lost family too. Oh, I forgot to mention this, but I actually had a gift for Weird Al in the form of an origami poodle, because, fun fact, that's apparently his favorite animal. Also, fun fact, I'm pretty experienced at making origami. Also fun fact, the poodle's actually a reference to UHF, because there's a scene in UHF where this guy has a show where he has a collection of animals in his apartment, and there's a segment where he tries to make poodles fly, but just throws them out the window. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Also, go watch UHF if you haven't yet. It's highly underrated. So after I handed him my origami, we got a picture together, and well, here it is. I gotta say, it's a pretty legendary picture if I do say so myself. And yeah, that was my interaction with Weird Al Yankovic. One more thing I gotta shout out Weird Al for. To get a picture and an autograph with the guy, it was $100. Which, honestly, and I'm being absolutely serious when I say this, Weird Al might be the most underpriced celebrity at a convention I've ever seen. And some of you might be thinking, $100? That is pretty expensive for one celebrity. Dude, let me tell you, in the world of conventions we currently live in, $100 for an autograph and selfie from an incredibly popular musician like Weird Al Yankovic is a steal. Trust me, I've seen celebrities who are significantly less famous than him that have charged around the same amount of money, if not more, for pretty much the exact same thing. Not to name any names or anything, Linda Blair. But yeah, in the end, getting to meet Weird Al was an absolute blast. And guess what? There is a lot more I want to talk about. So now it was about 11 o'clock, and so that meant it was time for me to meet up with my friends who were going to join me. Well, it turns out there was a ton of traffic in the area, so they were running late. So to pass the time, I decided to go say hello to a couple more folks at the celebrity area, one of whom was actually somebody from a horror movie. That being Nick Castle, aka the original Michael Myers. Now, I've already met Nick Castle a couple years ago at another convention, so I wasn't originally planning on meeting him at this one. But after what happened with Tony Todd last month, I just thought it wasn't worth risking it. And besides, I had a dope-ass Halloween poster I needed him to sign, so I got to meet Nick Castle again. And just like with Weird Al, he offered free selfies with an autograph purchase, so I got a pic with him as well. And guys, Nick Castle is one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet at a convention. If you ever catch him at one in the future, definitely be sure to meet him. He's the GOAT. And right after that, I headed over to meet an actress who was incredibly prevalent in my childhood, especially on the Disney Channel, that being Peyton List. Most people probably know her now because of Cobra Kai, but being a Gen Z kid, she's always going to be Holly Hills from the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies to me. So I was definitely surprised to learn that my 8x10 print from Diary of a Wimpy Kid was apparently the first one she ever signed, which now would be a good time to bring up that her selection of 8x10 photos were also pretty limited, just like Weird Al. Most of her stuff consisted of Cobra Kai photos with a few random things sprinkled throughout, but for some reason, no Diary of a Wimpy Kid photos. Again, gonna bring it up one more time. Bring your own items, people. Anyways, after she signed my print, I decided to get a photo with her, and I thought it would be fun to do a pose where we were reading one of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, which ultimately was the same pose we did back with Bruce Campbell, except that book was his autobiography. But something that was pretty funny is that as we were taking the photo, Peyton actually started reading a passage from the book. So I said to her, "You gotta be one of those people who reads to little kids at libraries." And she looks me dead in the eye and says, "Dude, that is literally my dream job." So hey, if there's any libraries out there who want someone to read to little kids every once in a while, hire Peyton List, she'll happily do it. So time has passed now, and my friends have still not made it to the convention. It turns out they were struggling to find parking. Eventually they made it to the convention, but they had to go to the registration line first, which they said was incredibly long. I guess those people online weren't lying after all. So I finally met up with my friends Taylor and Tyler, which I'm now just realizing that their names are almost identical. And also both of them were cosplaying. Taylor was wearing this pretty dope looking Sailor Jupiter costume, and Tyler was wearing a Charizard onesie. So we met up around 1:15 just in time for our first Q&A of the day, which was for a little show you may have heard of called Has-Been Hotel. Dude, I was not fully aware of how insanely popular Has-Been Hotel was until I I went to this convention. The theater that the Q&A was held at was completely packed with Has-Been Hotel cosplayers fucking everywhere. In fact, out of all the cosplayers I saw at this convention, I would say 90% of them were either Has-Been Hotel characters or Star Wars cosplayers because Hayden Christensen was in attendance at this event too. Oh, and furries. Lots and lots of furries. But yeah, everywhere you look, there was someone in an Alistair cosplay, or someone dressed as Charlie Morningstar or Angel Dust. In fact, I saw someone post on the Galaxycon subreddit about how they were disgusted about seeing little kids cosplay as Has-Been Hotel characters. They've since deleted the post then, but I think they said something about being shocked about seeing a 5-year-old dressed up as Charlie Morningstar, or something like that. Personally, the only character I'd have an issue seeing a kid cosplay as is Angel Dust. I mean, that dude is literally a star. I mean, what's the worst Charlie has done? Flip off an old lady and call her a bitch? Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers are always killing people. Should we stop having little kids dress up as those characters too? I mean, sheesh lady, just let them have fun. There's no need to be like a Karen or anything. Actually, never mind. When it comes to Angel Dust, I think you're justified with that one. Anyways, enough said. Let's talk about the Q&A finally. Like I said, it was absolutely packed in there. I'm not even joking when I say this. There were probably like over 10,000 people at this Q&A. So eventually the cast made their entrance, and if anyone's curious to know who's who in this picture, well, here you go. Hope this helps. So before they got on with the questions, they had a moderator give out some rules, one of which was make your question as quick as possible. And that probably had to do with the fact that the line for questions was insane. So of course, the first guy to go up spent their entire time saying how much they were honored to be there, how much the show meant to them, blah blah blah. And I'm not even joking, this probably went on for like a few hours. All I was thinking the entire time was,
get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
but yeah, it was a pretty fun Q&A. The crowd was definitely into it the entire time. But I gotta say, the biggest takeaway for me was probably the fact that Angel Dust's voice actor, Blake Roman, was a University of Michigan alumni. Yes, here in the Buckeye State of Ohio.
By the way, does everybody know where Blake went to school?
University of Michigan, baby. Okay, he was convinced that y'all would hate that. But you know what? I think we got a little more like blue support
I
here.
do think we have some.
I don't give a shit about sports.
Wait, I was told I'm supposed to do this. OH!
Oh, you.
I just thought that was really funny. So I wasn't able to get any footage of the Q&A, but as of when this video was out, Galaxycon actually did post the entire Q&A on their YouTube channel. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave the link in the description of this video. Anyways, as we slowly walked out of the theater thanks to the massive crowds trying to get out of the theater at the same time, my friends and I went to explore the vendors. And something I forgot to mention is that the Columbus Convention Center is huge. Like, you could easily get lost in this place within like 5 seconds. The vendor area was literally like a huge labyrinth. In fact, I had trouble finding my friends later on at one point. We'll talk more about that later. During this time, I did decide to go meet one more celebrity for the day, and that was Danny Trejo. You probably know him best as Machete, but my favorite movie of his has to be From Dusk Till Dawn, which just might be my favorite vampire movie of all time, but maybe that'll change soon, who knows. So I walked up to Danny Trejo, and since I knew he was from Los Angeles, I told him that I also grew up in the LA area. He asked, what part of LA? And I told him what part, and he's like, oh, I live 10 minutes from there. So that was a cool discovery to learn. Also, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Danny Trejo is like an actual businessman. He's got a taco restaurant, a donut shop, and a cantina. Like, it's crazy. And I'll be the first to let you know that if you're ever in the LA area and you happen to be in the mood for some tacos, go to Trejo's Tacos and get either the Baja Fish Tacos or the Carne Asada Tacos. And those are words coming from the man himself. But Danny Trejo was a blast. I will say he did have some trouble hearing during our conversation, but the guy's like 80 years old, so can you really blame him? After that, my friends and I split off to go do some things, and so I went to go watch another Q&A. And keeping up with the theme of vampires, this Q&A was for Kiefer Sutherland, who of course played the lead vampire David in The Lost Boys. The audience for his Q&A was significantly smaller than the Has-Been Hotel Q&A, which definitely felt like a nice breath of fresh air, but at the same time, I kind of felt bad for Kiefer, but he didn't really seem to mind. Also, for the first time ever, I actually got to ask a question at a Q&A. So without further ado, here is a terrible reanimated version of me asking Kiefer Sutherland a question. Enjoy.
If David from The Lost Boys went on to have a musical career, what genre of music would he perform?
That would definitely have been heavy metal. I'll tell you a funny story. So someone commented on the hair of David from The Lost Boys. I had long hair at the time I was hired to do the film, and Joel had wanted me to have white hair, showing that I had dyed as a younger person. And I said, okay, well that's very cool. So I got my hair dyed. And I did a photo shoot like later that week for some teen magazine. And back then, the magazine would come out a week later. So I saw the pictures and I was like mortified because I just looked like a really bad wrestler. And I was like, there's absolutely no way I'm doing this movie with this hair. But he had said, I want you to keep the hair long. And I said, okay. So we were shooting in Santa Cruz for the first month. And I went down to the hairdresser and I said, well, he said he wanted it long, but in the back, and then we're just going to cut the rest of it short like Billy Idol. And so I think accidentally I created the mullet. And I'd like to apologize to you all now. But that's how the hair came about.
So yeah, overall, while Kiefer is definitely very professional, you can tell that he's incredibly grateful for his fans, which I'll always appreciate. Okay, so remember how I said the exhibitor hall at this convention was like a maze? Well, I wasn't joking, because after the Q&A, I spent like the next hour and a half trying to look for my friends in the exhibitor hall, and oh man, was it tedious. It's okay, I ended up finding them, so it was all good. All this running around the convention made me soon realize that, oh shit, I haven't eaten at all today. So we went to go get something to eat. And normally I wouldn't bring up something so random like this, but like this time it's a little different. I decided to get some food from a place called Jet's Pizza, and I saw they had a calzone for like $10. So I was like, okay, $10. It can't be that huge, right? Yeah, this was probably the biggest calzone I'd ever f***ing seen. It probably weighed like a few pounds and was like 10 inches long, which hey, at least Angel Dust would approve. In fact, I actually made the mistake of also buying boneless wings. Like I said, I hadn't eaten anything all day, but holy shit, I thought I was gonna die after eating all of this. Don't get me wrong, it was still solid food, but like, good god. A calzone that size for just $10? That's a pretty sweet deal. But yeah, after that, there wasn't really a whole lot we did after that. We looked at some more vendors and then we decided to call it a night, meaning it was time to wrap up the 12 hours I spent at this convention. In fact, when I got back to my college dorm, I managed to get 10 hours of sleep. But even then, overall, I was really impressed with Galaxycon Columbus this year. I was honestly surprised to see a lot of people weren't impressed with this year. There were a lot of complaints about the layout of the convention, as well as some of the volunteers being unpleasant. Luckily, I didn't really have to deal with either one of those. Obviously, getting to meet one of my all-time favorite musicians is something I will never forget, but all the other guests were fantastic as well. Plus, the endless amount of activities and things they had to do at this convention was wildly impressive, but I know that tends to be the thing with big Comic-Cons. And of course, going to these things with friends is always a blast. Overall, Galaxycon Columbus was probably top 3 conventions I attended this year, maybe even top 2. I personally thought they upped their A game. If you're in the Columbus area next December, definitely come check out this awesome convention. Although, I would recommend trying to go all 3 days so you can get everything done easier. Because yes, the crowds are absolutely insane. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and press the subscribe button. Just like how Weird Al Yankovic presses the buttons on his accordion. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.